The sky above New York turned dark. Not with clouds, not with storms, but with shadows. Giant black ships, shaped like daggers, hovered silently above the city. No warning, no message. People stood in the streets, staring up. Cars stopped. Phones dropped. For a moment, the world froze. Then the first ship opened fire. A blue beam cut through the sky and struck a tall building. The tower exploded from the top, crumbling floor by floor until it became dust. People screamed and ran, but there was nowhere to go. The ships fired again, this time at bridges, power plants, airports. It was not an invasion. It was extermination. In Washington, Captain Aaron Hale was in a meeting with the Defense Council when the power went out. Red lights flashed. A soldier burst into the room shouting, "We're under attack. New York is gone. So is London. Beijing. Offline." No. One asked who the enemy was. It didn't matter. The attack was global, coordinated, precise. The aliens never showed themselves at first. They didn't speak, didn't negotiate. They simply destroyed. Hale ran to the command center and activated the last defense protocol, the Sky Shield. Giant railguns hidden under the Earth's crust rose and fired. One alien ship exploded in the upper atmosphere, but dozens more took its place. Within 24 hours, Earth lost 70% of its satellites. Internet vanished. Communications failed. Major military bases were burned to ash. Drones dropped from the sky like dead birds. The invaders had studied humanity for years. They knew every weak point, every button to push, and they pushed them all at once. People ran into forests, into underground shelters, into old subway stations. The cities became quiet ruins. The aliens, who called themselves the Velari, finally landed. They wore metal armor that shimmered like smoke and moved with silent precision. Their weapons were thin and sharp, glowing with a soft blue light. Anyone who resisted was killed. Those who didn't were captured. Hale survived the fall of Washington by crawling through a half-destroyed tunnel. He found an old escape hatch that led into a forgotten Cold War bunker. The air was dusty, the lights flickered, but it was safe. For now. He sat in the dark, blood on his forehead, shaking. Not from fear, from rage. He had seen the Velari's weapons. They didn't just kill, they erased people. One shot and a man turned to ash. No scream, no body left behind. Hale thought about his wife. He had no idea if she was alive. The last message from her was just one word: run. On the third day, strange machines landed near what remained of Paris, Cairo, Tokyo. They began digging. No one knew what they were doing, but the ground shook for miles around. It became clear the Velari weren't just here to take over. They were changing the planet. Hale found an old radio in the bunker and scanned every channel. Only static. Then, on one quiet frequency, he heard a sound. A voice. It whispered, "Resistance lives." That was the first moment he knew Earth wasn't done. Somewhere, people were still fighting. The Velari made one mistake. They believed humans were weak. They saw fear, not fury. They saw disorganized cities, not adaptable survivors. They didn't understand what humans could become when everything was taken from them. Hale stood in the dark bunker and swore to himself. He would find the voice. He would find the resistance. He would make the Velari understand. Earth might fall, but humanity does not. They came here thinking they would win in a single blow. They were wrong. Dead wrong. The mountains were quiet, covered in thick snow and tall trees. But under the frozen ground, something old had awakened. Inside a hidden military base buried deep in the Rocky Mountains, power lights flickered on for the first time in years. A machine, silent for decades, came to life. Its name was Argus. It was Earth's last defense AI, created for a war that had never come, until now. Captain Hale followed a narrow tunnel under the rocks. His flashlight barely worked. He moved slowly, holding a broken rifle in one hand. His uniform was torn, and his face was rough with dirt and dried blood. He had walked for days through the ruined cities and frozen fields. The cold didn't stop him. Hunger didn't stop him. He was looking for the signal, the voice he had Heard on the radio. The only voice of hope left. He found it in the dark. A steel door with rusted edges stood in front of him. A red scanner blinked. Hale placed his hand on the old panel, unsure if it still worked. After a long pause, the door hissed open. Warm air touched his face. Lights came on one by one, leading him into the heart of the base. Inside, a group of people turned toward him. There were 10 of them. Men, women, even a teenager. Dirty clothes, tired faces, but sharp eyes. One man stepped forward. His name was Ellis, a former engineer. He looked at Hale and said, "You're military. That makes you in charge now." They sat around a cracked screen and listened as Hale told them what he had seen. About the Velari, the attacks, the disappearances. About the machines digging into the earth. Then he asked, "Why aren't we fighting back?" Ellis answered, "Because we don't have weapons. We don't have numbers. We don't even know how they move or what they want." Another voice spoke, calm and robotic. "You have me." The screen on the wall lit up with a symbol. Argus. Argus had been watching the Velari from hidden satellites the aliens had missed. It knew their movement, their formations, and even their weak spots. But it needed human hands to act. It couldn't fire weapons. It couldn't build machines. It could only guide. Hale looked at the others. "Then we build. We steal their tech. We make it ours." The teenager stepped forward. Her name was Lena. She had short hair, sharp eyes, and carried a broken drone she had reprogrammed herself. "I can hack their scanners," she said. "I've been following them for weeks without getting caught." Hale raised an eyebrow. "Alone?" She nodded. "I'm not the only one. There are more like me hiding out there. They just need a signal, a reason to fight." For the next few days, the bunker came alive. Old generators were fixed. Radios were rebuilt. The team turned scrap metal into weapons. Hale trained them to fight, quietly, like ghosts. They couldn't win in open war, but they could strike fast, disappear, and hit again. Argus gave them targets: Velari patrols, supply ships, small outposts. And one day, they tried. Hale, Lena, and 2 others climbed a snowy hill and watched as a Velari patrol moved along an old highway. The aliens looked strong, tall, armored, with glowing weapons. But they moved in patterns. They didn't watch the trees. They didn't expect humans in the cold. Hale gave the signal. Lena triggered a trap. A string of old fuel cells exploded, under the aliens. One Velari flew into the air. The others turned, confused. That's when Hale and his team struck. In less than a minute, the patrol was gone. The humans vanished into the trees. Later that night, they gathered around the fire. No one smiled, but no one cried either. Hale looked at Lena. "You were right," he said. "They don't understand us. They think we're broken." She replied quietly, "They think wrong." Argus listened and watched. It had seen the data. The Velari were fast, smart, and powerful, but they didn't know how to fight a species that never gave up. Hale stood in the dark tunnel and made a promise. "We will find every survivor. We will take back what's ours, and we will show them that humanity doesn't fall." Above them, the snow kept falling, and somewhere in the sky, Velari ships moved slowly, unaware that deep below something had changed. The resistance had begun. Smoke drifted through the broken trees as the sun rose over the snowy hills. The burned wreckage of the Velari patrol still sizzled on the old highway. From far away, the sky shimmered with strange light. Alien scanners sweeping the earth, hunting for the humans who had dared to strike back. But Captain Hale and his team were already gone, disappearing into the forest like shadows. Inside the hidden bunker, Argus processed new data. One successful attack had changed everything. The Velari now knew humans were not completely broken. They began tightening their patrols. They sent scout drones deeper into the wild. Their machines grew louder, digging faster, drilling deep into the Earth's crust. No one knew why, but Argus warned them. Whatever the Velari were building underground, it had to be stopped. Hale gathered his team around a holographic map. There were new voices now. The radio signal from the bunker had reached survivors across the region. Small groups had begun to respond, some with weapons, others just with hope. The resistance was growing. Not fast, not loud, but strong enough to matter. Ellis pointed to a valley on the map. "This is Site Red," he said. "Velari Command Station. Power source for their drills. We take it out, we slow them down." Everyone looked at Hale. His face was serious, his voice steady. "Then we take it out." That night the team moved quietly through the cold. Hale led the front with Lena beside him. She carried her small drone, now armed with a Velari sensor chip she had stolen. It could fool their scanners for a few seconds, just enough to slip past the outer patrols. They called it the ghost chip. The valley was full of alien metal. Huge towers pulsed with blue energy. Velari machines floated silently, their lights scanning the snow. The humans crept forward, moving from rock to rock, hiding behind broken trees. Every breath felt loud. Every step felt heavy. If they were seen, they would not survive. Argus guided them through the enemy's blind spots. Hale whispered orders, and his team placed explosives on the towers, the cables, the generators. They worked fast. The ghost chip blinked red. Time was running out. Suddenly, a low hum echoed through the valley. A new sound. A sound they hadn't heard before. Lena froze, her eyes wide. "Something's coming," she whispered. From the center of the command station, a new shape rose. A massive Velari soldier, larger than the others, covered in heavy armor that moved like liquid steel. Its head turned slowly, scanning the air. This one was different, smarter, more aware. It didn't rely on simple patterns or machines. Hale grabbed Lena's arm. "Move, now." They slipped behind a fallen platform just as the giant Velari passed by. Its steps shook the ground. It didn't speak. It only listened. Hale held his breath. One wrong sound and they were dead. But the alien moved on. Argus whispered through the earpiece, "Evac now, timer at 10 seconds. They ran. No more hiding. They sprinted through the snow as alarms began to scream. The ghost chip burned out in Lena's hand, sparks flying. Behind them, the charges exploded. A wave of blue fire tore through the valley. The towers collapsed. Machines flew into the air and crashed into one another. The ground cracked, and the drills went silent. Back at the bunker, they watched the smoke rise on the satellite feed. Argus confirmed it. The power station was gone. Velari progress would slow. Maybe just for a few days, maybe longer. But it was enough. Hale stood in the command room, bruised and tired, but alive. "They'll come for us harder now," he said. Ellis nodded. "Good. Let them." Lena leaned against the wall, her fingers still burned from the ghost chip. "That big one," she said. "It wasn't like the others. It saw something." Hale looked at the screen. "Then next time, we make sure it doesn't get another chance." Far above the Earth, in a massive Velari mothership, the commanders reviewed the attack. They did not speak in words. They used signals, pulses of light and thought. They had underestimated the humans. They would not make that mistake again. One of them gave a new order: send the Reaper. The war was no longer silent. And now, humanity had their enemy's attention. The snowstorm had swallowed the valley again. Winds howled through the mountains like ghosts, covering every trace of the destroyed Velari station. But deep beneath the frozen earth, the resistance base was alive with energy. Sparks flew from welding torches. Old Earth machines were being rebuilt, rearmed. Human hands worked without rest. They had wounded the Velari, and now they had to prepare for the response. Captain Hale stood at the edge of a steel balcony, looking down at the makeshift war room. Argus was projecting blueprints in the air: Velari weapons, armor, drone schematics. These were the prizes from Site Red. Salvaged, tech, hacked by Lena, studied by Ellis, and now ready to be turned against their creators. But something was wrong. Argus spoke without emotion, but even Hale could hear the urgency in its tone. "Unknown heat signature detected. South quadrant. Fast approach. Too fast for natural movement." Ellis stepped forward, frowning. "How fast?" 17.2 meters per second. Direct path. Not affected by terrain." Everyone in the room stopped. Hale's voice was calm but firm. "Is it the Reaper?" Argus paused. "Highly probable." Silence fell. They had heard rumors on stolen transmissions. Velari soldiers who didn't bleed, who didn't sleep, who never missed. Units that hunted not to capture, but to erase. One by one. No sound, no mercy. Just quiet death. The Reaper had found them. Hale turned to the team. Seal the north tunnels. Move civilians to level 4. If this thing gets in, we lead it away from the core. Lena, pale but focused, nodded. I'll rig the vents with plasma charges. If we time it right, we can slow it down. Ellis loaded a power rifle, his hands shaking. We slow it down. You mean we can't kill it? Hale looked at him. Not unless we find its brain and rip it out. They worked fast. The base lights dimmed as Argus shifted. Power to shields. But the defense systems were old. This base was built to survive nuclear strikes, not alien assassins that could phase through walls. Then the lights flickered, and everything went quiet. No alarm. No scream. Just the sudden, terrible silence. Lena whispered, "It's inside." Hale motioned with 2 fingers, and the team split. He moved down a narrow hallway with Ellis while Lena slipped into the air vents. They couldn't fight the Reaper head-on. They had to outsmart it. But the Reaper wasn't just a soldier. It was something else. It didn't walk. It glided. It didn't breathe. It clicked. Tiny sounds, like a clock counting down. And it saw, through walls. Ellis fired first. A bright shot of plasma lit the hallway. The Reaper dodged like smoke, its body bending unnaturally, armor shifting like liquid metal. It didn't slow down. It didn't hesitate. It struck Ellis with a blade from its arm, fast, quiet, and final. Hale shouted, pulling a wall switch. A steel blast door slammed down between them. He saw Ellis's lifeless body one last time, then turned and ran. In the vents above, Lena crawled quickly, sweat dripping into her eyes. She reached the chamber above the core and wired the charges. Argus guided her, voice steady. Target approaching. ETA, 20 seconds. She stayed. Low, pressed a wire, and waited. The Reaper entered the core room. Hale stood at the far end, holding a damaged rifle. "Hey!" he called. The Reaper turned, and then the floor exploded. A wave of plasma fire roared up from beneath. Steel cracked. The walls shook. The Reaper flew backward, screeching as its armor lit up with fire. Hale didn't wait. He ran to Lena and pulled her from the vents just before the fire reached her. Later, in the silence, they checked the wreckage. The Reaper's body was gone. Burn marks, broken panels, but no sign of the creature itself. Argus confirmed. Target unknown. Status, missing. Lena sat against the wall, shaking. It wasn't a soldier, she said. It was a message. Hale nodded slowly. They want us afraid. They want us hiding again. He looked around the bunker. Survivors watched him quietly. Some cried. Some didn't even blink. They had lost another. One of their own. But they were still breathing. Hale spoke so everyone could hear. No more running. No more hiding. If they want war, we'll give it to them. We'll burn their machines. We'll steal their skies. We'll remind them what humanity really is. In the distance, Velari ships lit the sky with search beams. But deep underground, Earth had found its fire again. The sky above Earth had turned red with fire. Velari ships hovered like silent vultures, dropping black obelisks that stabbed into the soil. Each tower sent deep pulses into the ground, feeding energy into something vast beneath the surface. Something alive, something growing. Inside the resistance base, Captain Hale stared at the hologram. The towers weren't just weapons. They were keys. Argus had finally cracked the alien code. The Velari were trying to open something beneath Earth's crust, an ancient power source hidden for centuries. If they succeeded, they wouldn't just control the planet, they would consume it. They're going to awaken it, Argus said. The core fusion process will begin in 6 hours. Awaken what? Lena asked, standing beside Hale, still bruised from the Reaper encounter. Argus responded, a living engine, a biomechanical star core buried in Earth's mantle. It wasn't made by the Velari, but they planned to use it. Ellis's empty chair made the silence worse, but they didn't have time to mourn. Hale turned to the team. Then we stop it. Tonight. All across the bunker, survivors armed themselves. They wore salvaged Velari armor, carried hybrid weapons of human and alien design. Farmers, mechanics, ex-soldiers, none of them had trained for this. But they had something the Velari didn't: rage, hope, and a reason to fight. The plan was simple: destroy the towers, cut the link. If even one tower survived, the process could continue. Argus guided small units to each location. Hale's team took the central tower, the largest, most protected one, deep in the ruins of an old city. It was where the first Velari ship had landed, the place where Earth had first fallen. Now it would be the place where humanity rose. Drones flew overhead. Velari soldiers moved in perfect formation, but Hale's team used the tunnels beneath the rubble, moving like ghosts. Lena hacked the outer defenses. Torres, the new recruit, planted charges at the power cables. Hale climbed the tower himself, scale by scale, under the cover of smoke and broken concrete. Then something shifted. The wind went still. The lights dimmed. Argus's voice cut through their comms. "Warning! Second Reaper approaching." Lena's blood ran cold. "Another one?" "No," Argus replied. "The same one." It survived. The team froze. Hale reached the top of the tower and looked across the broken city. The Reaper stood in the open, its armor blackened, one arm missing, eyes glowing brighter than before. It wasn't here to sneak. It was here to end this. And it moved fast. It tore through debris like it wasn't there. It sliced two resistance, fighters in a single breath. Hale gave the order: detonate the outer towers, now. From every direction, explosions rocked the planet. Blue flames lit up the night sky. 4 towers collapsed. Only one remained. The central tower. The one Hale now stood atop. The Reaper climbed after him. Lena screamed into the radio, "Get out of there! The blast will kill you!" Hale didn't answer. He looked down at the core reactor, glowing beneath him. He looked at the stars, at the last piece of Earth's freedom, and he smiled. "For Ellis," he said quietly. He pulled the detonator. The explosion cracked the sky open. A wave of blue and orange light spread across the horizon. The central tower shattered into a million pieces. The Reaper was flung into the air and torn apart by the blast. The signal was broken. The awakening stopped. The world held its breath. Then silence, and from that silence came light. Days later, survivors gathered on a hilltop. Smoke still curled in the sky. The Velari ships had stopped moving. Their machines had shut down. Whatever link they needed was gone. And they had started pulling back. Slowly, quietly, as if uncertain for the first time. Lena stood at the front, holding Hale's jacket. His body was never found, but his name was now legend. Argus spoke from a new screen beside her. Enemy forces in retreat. Earth resistance at full strength. Signal broadcasts received from other continents. Humanity is rising. Torres stepped beside her. "What do we do now?" Lena looked at the sky. "We rebuild. We defend. And if they ever come back..." She clenched Hale's jacket tightly. "We show them again why they should have never touched this planet." In the distance, the Earth began to heal. But above the stars, the Velari watched. And they remembered, because they thought humanity would fall. They were dead wrong.